Welcome to the BMW X3 plug-in hybrid, otherwise known as one of the halfway houses between regular petrol and diesel SUVs and their cleaner, greener, all-electric future selves. See, while this X3 does have a 2-litre turbocharged petrol engine for longer journeys, it's also got an 80 kilowatt electric motor that means you can waft around without using a drop of fuel. It's a very good idea, but only if you use the car properly. More on that later though, as for now I can tell you that this X3 PHEV goes up against other plug-in hybrid alternatives such as the Audi Q5 TFSI-e, Mercedes-Benz GLC 300e and Volvo XC60 Recharge. That's right, pretty much all the SUV big hitters now have a plug-in hybrid model in the range, so it's no longer seen as a USP, it's a necessity. And that also means that this BMW X3 xDrive 30e, to give it its proper name, has some serious competition. So let's find out if it's any good. Of course, the X3 plug-in hybrid is just one of a number of powertrains on offer. Should you wish, there's regular petrol and diesels, as well as the M40i and M40d performance versions, the latter getting a mammoth 680 Nm of torque. All models get xDrive all-wheel drive and an automatic gearbox as standard. Welcome aboard the BMW X3, and I say that because it really is as spacious as a ship in here. I know a lot of cars have grown in size over the years, but this X3 is actually longer and wider than the original BMW X5, and the upshot of that is that there's so much space in the cabin. I've got lots of knee room and leg room and shoulder room, and even if I was significantly taller, I'd still have tons and tons of headroom. It really is one of the most capacious cars you can buy for this kind of budget. And I've got to say as well, if you're thinking about getting a BMW X5, then really you should try this thing out first, because for most people, I reckon this is going to be all the space you'll ever need. Onto technology, and well, it's really very good indeed. This car is an M Sport spec model. You can get the X3 and indeed the plug-in hybrid version as an SE, the base SE, and an X-Line as well, but this is M Sport, and that means you get the BMW Live Cockpit Professional technology package, which includes the 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster, which is just there. You've also got the 10.25-inch central infotainment touchscreen, which runs on BMW operating system 7.0. And the verdict for all this technology is that BMW still knows how to make a brilliant infotainment system, because the menus are so easily laid out, it's intuitive, it's quick, there's no delay when you go for a function or a button. It's just very good indeed. And although you can use the touchscreen, as I said, it is a touchscreen, you can also use the rotary dial down here, which is something that most or other manufacturers now, such as Mercedes-Benz and Audi, are getting rid of. And I don't know why, because when you're on the move and you don't have time to start stabbing around at the screen, this thing is just so much easier to use. But then again, you do have the touchscreen, you do have the choice. And talking of choice, you wouldn't believe how many different methods there are to turning the volume up or down in this car, because there's the regular volume dial on the center console and there's the buttons on the wheel too, which are fairly normal. But then there's also voice recognition, which is actually very good, and you can turn the volume up or down using that. But then there's a fourth method too. You can simply swivel, if I play the music, you can simply swivel your hand or your finger like this, and then the volume will hopefully increase if it works reliably, and then your James Blunt will come booming out at you, and then you'll inevitably go and turn it down with this, because that's just so much easier. But then if you want the choice, this car offers you 4 different methods. Aside from all that, the digital instrument cluster that I mentioned earlier, it is good, it's clear enough, But then, unlike the Mercedes-Benz and Audi equivalents, it doesn't have that much in the way of customization. You've got the same screen, which you can just change the little part of on the right-hand side. But other than that, you can't scroll through more detailed functions on the telephone, the media, the nav, stuff like that. Some people will like that simplicity, but then others will probably want just a little bit more customization. Also, the wireless Apple CarPlay, which you get as standard on the X3, it isn't that reliable. It'll work fine for the first 20 minutes of your journey, but then suddenly it'll cut out and you'll have no sat nav and you won't know where you're going and you need to stop and plug it in. So honestly, it's best just plugging it in. Wireless Apple CarPlay is a great thing, but it still needs just a little bit of polishing first. Saying that, that's my only real complaint on quality in this car, because otherwise it's just such a nice place to sit. All the materials are soft to the touch and high quality. It feels sturdy, feels like it'll last the course. Everything is well laid out. It's just such a nice place to be. Standard equipment on the BMW X3 includes 18-inch alloy wheels, 3-zone climate control, front and rear parking sensors with a reversing camera, and the more basic BMW Live Cockpit Plus technology package. This features things like automatic map updates for the sat-nav, intelligent voice recognition, BMW emergency call, and the ability to see the status of your car within the BMW app. You can even activate the parking cameras while it's parked to see who's going near your pride and joy. Now, for those sitting in the back, it is pretty much the same as in the front in that you've got loads and loads of room back here. There's lots of foot room, knee room, and even with this panoramic roof, you've still got tons and tons of headroom as well, which is really good. I've also got to point out this nice wide armrest on the doors, so the outer passengers have somewhere to put their elbows. You've got really big door pockets, same as in the front, so you can put a good sized water bottle in there. There's the nets behind the seats. There's the 3-zone climate control, which we mentioned earlier, so you can pick the temperature in the back. And also, this centre armrest folds down if there's no one in the middle seat, and it reveals 2 cup holders. You can also get the optional comfort package, which I would recommend because, among other things, it gets you the heated steering wheel for the driver so their hands can be toasty on a winter morning, the extended storage package, and for those in the back seats, you can recline the backrest or push it back like so, which is very handy in making you more comfortable on a long journey. In general, the X3's boot space is competitive at 550 litres, but if you go for the plug-in hybrid model, the fuel tank is placed under the floor, which robs 100 litres of precious cargo capacity. Granted, both the XC60 Recharge and Q5 TFSI-e also have smaller boots than their petrol and diesel counterparts, but it still doesn't take away from the fact that there is a noticeable practicality downside if you go with the PHEV versions. Before we go on, here are our top alternatives to the BMW X3 PHEV. First up, it's the Audi Q5 TFSI-e. Fast, comfortable, and with a lovely interior, there's little to choose between it and the X3. Next up, it's the Mercedes-Benz GLC 300e. Facelifted in 2019, it benefits from the brand's MBUX infotainment system and can be had as a petrol or diesel plug-in hybrid. Finally, the Volvo XC60 Recharge is a capable and stylish alternative to its German rivals. Plus, like all Volvos, its safety record is second to none. So now we're out on the road, and the big question is, how does this X3 plug-in hybrid benefit you over, say, a regular petrol or diesel X3? Well, you've got around 30 miles of electric range when the battery is fully charged up, and that's in line with the plug-in hybrid rivals from Volvo, Audi and Mercedes-Benz. And you can use that power whether you're on the motorway and it just tops up the petrol engine so you're not quite using as much fuel, or you can use it in and around town or on faster B roads in all electric mode, and then you're not using any fuel at all. Either way, you're going to be saving money on fuel. The X3 PHEV also uses switchable drive modes that allow you to pick how you want to use the power. There's Auto eDrive, where the car decides when the electric power should be provided, battery control, where the battery charge is retained, and Max eDrive, which keeps the car almost exclusively in electric mode. Charging time from empty to full with a domestic plug socket is around 2.5 hours. To be honest with you, most people will probably just leave this car in Auto eDrive mode, and that's probably a very sensible tactic because you really do need to think ahead or be careful with how you use the power in a plug-in hybrid. And the reason for that is if you say use all the electric power on the motorway or by thrashing it on a B road and you've got none left for the final few miles of your journey that might be taking place in a town, then you're not going to be getting the full benefit. What you will get is a petrol SUV that's actually heavier than it was before and therefore less efficient. For example, with this car, I can easily get 50, 60 plus miles per gallon if I drive onto the motorway and then do the final few miles on electric power alone. You can easily achieve mid-50s, but if I used up all the power and then tried to charge the battery from the engine, that MPG then plummets and it really doesn't make any sense over, say, a diesel X3. I've got to say as well, this is a very, very refined car, even when you're in electric mode. And that might sound a little bit strange because of course it's going to be quieter when you're driving on electric power only, but it does magnify the road noise and the wind noise. But in this, there really isn't much of either. It is very, very serene. The only thing that can spoil that is when the petrol engine kicks in, and that's not under normal circumstances. It's when you really press your foot into the floor and it's just a little bit thrashy sounding at the top end, only when you're really pushing it. But yeah, it does make a bit of a racket. It's quick, 0 to 62 miles an hour in 6.1 seconds, and honestly the transition from electric to petrol power is really nice, but when you put your foot down you are going to hear it. It does shatter the illusion somewhat, but there's still plenty of torque, so you shouldn't have to do that too often. The ride comfort on this car, I've got to mention it, it is superb, because although it hasn't got the optional adaptive suspension, it also hasn't got the firmer M Sport suspension, because although this is the M Sport spec, you can't get M Sport suspension with the plug-in hybrid, and I'm really not complaining because it takes the bumps and the undulations in the road so well. It's a really grown-up, polished ride. And although you'd probably expect that from a car this size, it's not always the case. The only time that it gets in any way upset is over expansion joints in the road, which can just cause a judder in the cabin. But otherwise, these 19-inch wheels, standard with the M Sport, and their big chunky sidewalls, they do a really excellent job of keeping you comfortable. The X3 is known for its excellent handling, and even though the plug-in hybrid version is notably heavier, it still retained some of its dynamic charms. That said, the regenerative braking gives the brake pedal an odd feel, which does take some getting used to. If you're looking to buy a BMW X3 but you don't know which one to go for, then here are our top 3 choices. For the cheapest one available, it's the xDrive 20i SE. If you're a company car driver, then it's this, the plug-in hybrid variant with its 10 to 12% BIK tax. And finally, if you're a performance car fan, then you're in for a treat, because you can have either the 340 horsepower M40D or the 360 horsepower M40i. The BMW X3 is an excellent executive SUV, and the 30e plug-in hybrid is a fine addition to the range. It does exactly what a PHEV should do, allowing short trips to be completed in the serenity of electric-only power. Honestly, if you were trying to choose between this, the Volvo, the Audi, or the Mercedes-Benz, then it really comes down to which model you prefer in general, because as plug-in hybrids, they all do pretty much the same job as well as each other. If you are set on the BMW though, or indeed any of its rivals, then just make sure that you can use the plug-in hybrid element properly and you can charge it frequently. Otherwise, a petrol or diesel SUV will make a lot more sense.